The series starred John Russell as Marshal Dan Troop and Peter Brown as Deputy Marshal Johnny McKay. The storyline revolves around Dan Troop, a police officer from Abilene, Kansas, who relocates to Laramie, Wyoming, and becomes the new town marshal after the previous marshal was murdered. To help him keep the law, Troop deputizes young Johnny McKay and teaches him the fundamentals of law enforcement. The two lawmen keep the peace in Laramie for 4 seasons. John Russell may not have been the most attractive lawman on television, but as a model for law and order, he certainly, I believe, personified it in purest form. His Marshal Dan Troop character was portrayed as a hard-nosed, by-the-book, seasoned lawman, quick with a gun and good with his fist. He was rugged, deadly serious, intelligent, and dedicated. He often was stubborn and unyielding when it came to enforcing the law of the land. John Russell, who was 37 years old when he got the part, imagined that Dan would have to be older, perhaps his mid-50s, to have that much experience as a lawman. Russell had white streaks added to his hair and lowered his voice to make him appear older. He said about his lawman character, "Troop is a man doing a job at the expense of everything else. He doesn't make himself winning or witty or do anything else to make people like him. The stories we've done on Lawman are about people under stress. Men under stress do desperate things. We have tried to play it that way." Deputy Johnny McKay was portrayed by Peter Brown. Troop arrives in Laramie as Johnny McKay, who was 19, was placing flowers on the grave of his friend, the murdered marshal. Dan Troop is initially reluctant to deputize him based on his young age and lack of experience. But over time, though, McKay proves his worth and earns Troop's trust. Johnny called Dan Mr. Troop, or Sir, and Dan usually called Johnny Boy. About his Johnny McKay character, Brown said, "My character was not a big stretch. He was a pretty nice kid who was adept at what he did and was eager to learn. Johnny liked girls and guns and all the things Peter Brown liked." About the show, he said, "The only thing that makes Lawman different from other westerns is how we do it." Prior to the beginning of production, Russell, Brown, and producer Jules Shermer made a pact to maintain the quality of the series so that it would not be seen as just another western. During the first season, the episodes maintained a serious tone. At the start of Season 2, the scripts included more comedy and some romance. A third cast member, Peggy Castle, and a new location, the Birdcage, were introduced. The Birdcage was where the good guys and the bad guys often convened. Its owner, Lily Merrill, frequently gave both Dan and Johnny wise advice when needed. Lily Merrill came to Laramie from Billings, Montana. She'd been forced out of Billings by a corrupt sheriff. Soon after her arrival in Laramie, she became Dan Troop's romantic interest. His job, though, often thwarted any serious development in the romance department. Sometimes the viewers were left with a sense that Lily was secretly disappointed that their relationship was not going further. Russell and Brown participated in 2 other westerns of the time. Both actors appeared in an episode of Maverick entitled Hadley's Hunters, with Jack Kelly as Bart Maverick. Peter Brown also appeared as Johnny McKay with Adam West as Doc Holliday in Sugarfoot, Trial of the Canary Kid. Despite contending with hectic schedules, very tight budgets, and a myriad of writers and directors who were never given the time or money they got at other studios, Lawman generally achieved decent ratings. It competed against an array of high-powered westerns airing at the time. The two stars and producer Jules Schumer were the constants, maintaining the high quality of the show and the consistency of the characters. Some of the critics, though, believed the show was too similar to Gunsmoke. They thought the show's main character, Marshal Dan Troop, was too similar to Marshal Matt Dillon, and both characters also had love interests who owned saloons. Lawman was shot in black and white and was 30 minutes in length. Although the setting was 1879 to 1880 Laramie, Wyoming, most of its filming was done on the backlots of Warner Brothers Burbank studio. Many actors guest starred. These are just a few: Joel Grey, Robert Fuller, Jack Elam, Paul Fix, Lee Van Cleef, Denver Pyle, Jeanette Nolan, Maria Windsor, Pernell Roberts, Sammy Davis Jr., DeForest Kelley, and James Colburn. The popularity of Lawman spawned a variety of merchandise during its run. There were lunchboxes, puzzles, boots, sheet music, and action figures. A Lawman comic book drawn by Dan Spiegel ran for 11 issues from 1958 to 1962. Lawman's primary television competition was The Ed Sullivan Show on CBS. Lawman aired at 8:30 opposite Ed Sullivan's Last Half Hour. For the first two seasons of its four-season run, Lawman followed Maverick on Saturday nights in the 8:30 time slot. In the 8 o'clock ABC time slot was Colt 45 and later The Rebel. In Season 4, ABC replaced Lawman with a Sunday night movie and moved Lawman to 10:30 p.m., essentially sounding the death knell for the show. Its last ride was June 24, 1962, thus ending one of the great all-time TV westerns.